Hi, my name is Terry, and I'm your boy Terry. You can find me across the internet with the usernames you're passing Google. And in this short video, I'm going to be answering the question at hand, how to authenticate your documents. Most people call it red ribbon, especially if you're to use the document abroad. And it's a document originating from the Philippines. There is a necessity to authenticate this document so that it is recognized abroad as valid or authentic. Normally, this will be a red ribbon. That's what people are familiar with. Basically, authentication for many documents like birth certificates, marriage certificates, um, power of attorney. There's a list of documents. I'll mention the list and I'll put a resource that you can read under this video. When you are abroad and these documents originate from the Philippines, for these documents to be accepted when you are abroad, it needs a form of authentication from the DFA, Department of Foreign Affairs here in the Philippines. And previously, it is known as red ribbon. Basically, you take the document to the DFA office, and then they put a seal. It's a red ribbon, basically, literally, on the document. Then you can use these documents abroad. But there has been a change now, according to an article I read, which I'll put underneath this video. It's no longer called red ribbon. They now call it an apostille, and I'll explain that briefly. The reason I'm doing this video is I try to cover, answer questions that don't have tangible resources on the internet, in the form of a video. And in general, many broad topics on the internet, that's like Google, don't have tangible resources in video format. So I'm trying to do a video. I'm not very good with videos, but you'll get the gist because I'll add an article that you can read underneath this video. Previously, it was called a red ribbon, but that has been scrapped. So they have a new method for authentication. It's no longer a red ribbon. It's called an apostille, and it doesn't apply everywhere. And there's an agreement that was signed to use the apostille method for authentication by many countries around the world, Philippines included. So this form of authentication will only be accepted in countries that are under this apostille policy or method of authentication. I'll explain that better. Let me just open the research so that I can read some aspects of it or paraphrase. Basically, the highlight of this video is you can no longer red ribbon your documents because it's now called an apostille form of authentication. That's one thing to take note of for a start. Let me look for the article that I read. It's from Filipino. The no is KNOW, one word. I'll put the link to the article in the description. So basically what the article is saying is that from June 17, 2019, the DFA officially stopped issuing red ribbon, which have been replaced by apostille certificates following the Philippines accession to the Apostille Convention. So basically, the apostille certificate is a form of authentication that replaces the red ribbon. The only difference now is that it hasn't applied to all countries. There's a list of countries that have adopted this method of authentication or have agreed to validate this form of authentication. So only countries on this list will accept your documents as authenticated when it carries the apostille certificate. Again, the article, I'll place it underneath this video. It has the list of countries. There are many countries, so there's a possibility that your country is there, but there are some countries that are not there. Recently, I was trying to authenticate 2 documents for 2 of my sisters in 2 different locations. One of my sister is in a location that is not under this apostille policy, while the other is. So basically, I was going to authenticate just one of the documents and find out what the solution is for the other document. Uh, you know, since the red ribbon form of authentication is no longer available. So let me just read a bit. It says on September 12, 2018, the Philippines formally acceded to the Apostille Convention held in Netherlands. Just a moment, let me verify something. Okay, so just a moment. The aim for this was to streamline the authentication process. I don't know if that's really streamlining it or limiting it, but let me see. Certification. Just a moment. Okay. So the Apostille certificate enables Filipinos to use their authenticated documents in any Apostille contracting country without going through another consular authentication or legalization procedure. So they scrapped one of the steps. Previously, you'll have to get the document authenticated here and still authenticated at an appropriate consular office at the the destination country. But now they scrapped that. So once it's authenticated here and it has the apostille certificate and you are in a location that has acceded to the apostille form of authentication, then there's no checking it again to verify or legalize it as authentic. So they just scrapped one of the processes to streamline the process according to them. So they have a list of countries that have adopted this method of authentication or policy, and you'll find the list in the description. There's an entire article that you can read. Types of documents that can be authenticated are birth certificate, marriage certificate, death certificate, diplomas, transcript of records, licenses, certificate of employment, immigration records, police clearance, barangay clearance. Anyway, any document, most of the documents. The aim of authentication is very simple. Anybody can print out a document and take it abroad, or a replica of a government-issued document and take it abroad and provide it as valid. But of course, abroad, they want to ascertain that these documents are valid, so they want you to take it to a Department of Foreign Affairs in the Philippines and then authenticate it, like a third party, to establish that the document is actually valid. So that's the essence of authentication. So yes, so you can authenticate any document coming from the Philippines, mostly government issued documents when you are going abroad, so that they are valid abroad. DFA has several branches in Manila. I don't know of other states or provinces of the Philippines, but in Manila, it's not only in Paranaque. There are various DFA centers, but not all the DFA centers carry out authentication of documents. So again, the article that I'll leave underneath the video has a list of the DFA offices in Manila that carries out authentication of documents. There's one in Alabang and others. Now, the process for authentication is mostly simple. For the most part, you'll need your identification, and then the documents should be authenticated and money. And I think like 100 pesos for 4 days That is, you authenticate today and go back after 4 days to receive your document, or a speedy kind of authentication that can happen within the same day or one business day. I've experienced it where they tell you to come the next day, but it was possible to get the document that same day after some hours. So that costs 200 pesos instead of 100. Then in cases where someone else needs you to authenticate on their behalf, they'll need to write an authorization letter and provide their ID to you, who is going through with the process. It's better for them to write it from their end and take a picture of it with their ID, and then send that to you, and you can print it and submit it to them during the authentication endeavor. So it's very simple. The logic from the highlight of this is that so that we can look for solutions, especially if your country, destination country is not on the list of countries, what other form of authentication will apply. But the red ribbon has been scrapped, and now it's the apostille form of authentication, which will be valid in countries that are on the list of countries that accept the apostille form of authentication for documents. Anyway, I'll stop here. You can read more, so you'll find answers yourself. Underneath this video is going to be a link to the website that I got information from. Do your findings, and I hope this helps, in case you are looking for answers on YouTube, because YouTube is a search engine as well. Then you may find a video that gives you a hint or a gist of the answers you seek. So we'll stop here. I'm your boy Terry. Please subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be doing videos like this, answering as many questions as possible in video format, and popping questions that have not been popped while answering these questions as well. I'm your boy Terry once again. Stay awesome.